I am a community organizer and digital organizer here with Mass Liberation Arizona. I've been involved with Court Watch ever since we started building it because, like a lot of us, I've seen firsthand how harmful and isolating the criminal justice system can be for people and their loved ones. Um, Court Watch became a way for me to show up for folks in the community and make sure people aren't facing these systems alone. So we want to welcome everybody who's joining us for the first time, along with folks who have already done a training with us before and are coming back to, refresh their understanding. But no, for real, we appreciate y'all taking the time to be here. So tonight we're going to walk through the basics of Court Watch, like courtroom etiquette, safety, logistics, and what it looks like to show up in ways that'll better support defendants and their families without causing any additional harm. We'll also go over about how or court packing and why community presence inside these courtrooms matters so much right now. And there's so much that happens behind these closed doors and in these spaces, and a lot of this work is making sure that these people are seen, supported, and not left alone while facing such a scary and violent system. Um, so before we get into things, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping. Today is really just meant to be an introduction and a refresher for those of you who are rejoining us again, to Court Watch and court packing, because we have a lot coming up, a lot that we foresee this year. So we're going to talk about why Court Watch matters to our work here at Mass Liberation Arizona, how it connects to the broader community defense and abolitionist organizing. We will also walk through ways folks can plug in and directly support upcoming Court Watch efforts and actions moving forward. But first, for those of you who are new here, I will get into a little bit about Mass Liberation Arizona. Mass Liberation Arizona is a Black-led abolitionist organization led by directly impacted folks, those who have been incarcerated, have loved ones who have, etc. We believe in a world without police, prosecutors, prisons. Our goal is to dismantle the criminal injustice system by decarcerating our communities and shifting resources away from punishment and toward care, healing, and true safety. So when you step into court, you're stepping into a system designed to criminalize and control, especially Black, brown, and poor people. So we're here to expose that harm and support those who are being targeted by it and organize its abolition. Today, we do also want to ground ourselves in a few specific values that we have here at Mass Liberation Arizona. And so the first value that I want to spend some time on is the system isn't broken, it was designed this way. I'm going to repeat that. Let it land on you. The system isn't broken, it was designed this way. So if it's your first time court watching, you'll witness a lot of unfair things that happen in court, like people being punished for their race, folks being treated more harshly. So we want to emphasize that these aren't accidents or mistakes, and the system was built to work like this to keep certain groups in power and others oppressed, especially Black and brown folks. So by starting with this truth, we're not just asking folks to quietly observe, we're asking them to pay attention, ask questions, and stand with people most hurt by the system. It's not really about fixing a broken system. It's about recognizing how it really works and imagining, something better. And that's what abolition is all about. It was designed for our people to strategically and carefully disrupt systems of control and, to build our own power collectively. I will say the second one that I want to touch on, that really, resonates with this training for me is all of us or none of us. So this means like court watchers are taught to show up for everyone affected by the system. And the system hurts people in different ways, but no one should ever be thrown away. We don't determine who deserves support, but we do stand with everyone. And that is what real justice and abolition is really about. Freedom for all of us, not just some of us. Liberation for one person at the expense of another is not liberation at all. That is a quote that I often go back to when I think of these things, and I do step into this courtroom or these courtrooms through Court Watch. That it'll take all of us to liberate ourselves and one another. Um, when community members reach out for support, court watching is pretty much an excellent way to show them that they're not alone. We will sit right behind them, show them that they are not going to be forgotten, they're not going to be thrown away, that their voice matters, and the person on the stand isn't facing the state. We are facing the state together, all of us or none of us, hand in hand, and that is what community really means. So I want to ask y'all in this list of values, and when it comes to court watching, what value most resonates with you? Those two were the ones that resonate with me the most. And I mean, if you have the same ones as me, drop those in the chat. Which value most resonates with you? And I'll read some back. 9 and 10. I also dropped in the chat the question in case folks did not hear me. Um, all right, we're getting people in or putting people in cages is never the answer. Yep. There's a difference between crime and harm, love and rigor. Yep. 100%. Okay. I love all of these. People over property, Black liberation. Yep. Yep. all of these all of these values do resonate with court watch, and they do go hand in hand, one way or another. So thank you all for that fun little activity, and I hope that um, this opened up a little more about who we are and what court watching is if you are new here, and if we're refreshing your memory, I hope it's helpful, and I will pass to Joe.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you, folks, for participating in the chat. Really appreciate it. All of us or none of us came up a couple of times. That's definitely the one that I tend to try and hold as I think about this. All right. So, Court Watch. For those of you who've kind of been with us for a little bit, we talk about abolition quite a bit and mutual aid as a big part of our practice as abolitionists. And so court watching and court packing is such an important part of our abolitionist mutual aid work here at Mass Liberation Arizona. One of the core tenets of mutual aid that we always talk about is care as resistance, because to care for each other is both healing work and it's political work, right? It's both healing work and it's political work. Mutual aid is a direct challenge to the lie that we are often told that we are alone, that some lives matter more than others, or that our worth can be dictated by the state, right? Those are all lies that mutual aid is in direct contradiction to, right? And it's a commitment to leave no one behind. And so, part of what we see is that where so many of our community members get left behind is in these police interactions. It's in the courtrooms. It's getting lost within the prison system. This is where so many of our community members get left behind. And so this is the ways in which we try and make sure and demonstrate that no one gets left behind. And so community defense is how we protect ourselves, right, from the brutalization of police violence, as well as the impacts of state violence that try to cage and kill us. And so some examples, right, that you'll see on the screen of community defense, right? And feel free to throw in the chat if you've participated in any of these types of programs, or if maybe there's other types of community defense projects that you know of. If you want to throw that in the chat as well. But these are just some of the ways in which our community can come to defense for each other. In particular, right, when our community members, when our neighbors, when our loved ones are directly targets of the state, right? These are all different places that we can interject. And what we're going to talk a little bit more about today is the court watching piece, right? The ways in which we can show up in court for our folks facing the system. Groovy? All right. So what is court watching? Let's go ahead and get into it. So every day, thousands of people are going through court hearings, and oftentimes they are just going through these alone, right? Like kind of like literal meat grinders, right? And so what are some of the things that people are facing in these hearings? They're facing whether their bail is going to be set or whether or not their freedom is going to be revoked. They're facing whether or not their families will be separated. They're facing potential fines and fees that will make living untenable, right? They're facing the state lying on them in terms of like police misconduct. We see that all the time. Right, and so people are facing so many things when they're going to court, on top of the personal and physical health risks, right? The shots to your health, the shots to your sense of self, the shots to your ability to stay connected to your community, right? These are all things that are on the line for folks who are facing court. And oftentimes, the folks that are the most alone, right, the most marginalized in those spaces are Black, brown, poor people. Young folks in particular facing court, right, are oftentimes treated with like as if they have no rights whatsoever, right? And the only people that are guaranteed as someone that can sit with you is a state-appointed defense attorney, right? Who oftentimes has the least amount of power between the judge and the prosecution, right? Like you're able to sit with the person who has the least amount of power besides you, right? As someone who might be the defendant. And so there are different types of court hearings and proceedings. Some of you, again, might have gone through some of these things. You might have known folks who have faced these things, but jury selection, sentencing hearings, evidentiary hearings, people going before parole boards, right? These are all different types of hearings and proceedings that we can engage court watching as an action or as a tool of community defense. Right. And so, really, right, through monitoring court proceedings, both virtually or in person, right, anyone with a little bit of extra time and maybe even some internet connection can, have an impact in these spaces. Um, so again, what are some types of different court watching opportunities? And I think we have a slide change. Thank you so much to our tech. So we have a couple of different types of court watching that we oftentimes engage with. One, the individual support, right? Attending court for folks, showing the judge and the prosecutors, the Department of Homeland Security, right? The juries that the accused person has community ties, that they have support, and that people are watching, right? It's important to signal that to the state and to all its different actors that this is also a dynamic that's in the courtroom. It's also a form of support. It's a form of emotional support for the person being accused, especially at a time, again, where they're feeling the most powerless. So that's individual support. That's one type of court watch. Another type of court watch is exploratory research, right? Again, like I had mentioned before, there's so many different types of court hearings and proceedings that they don't always work the same. They don't always work the same. Sometimes there's different rules, there's different cultures, and so exploratory research is an opportunity for court watchers to gather information about the system, about how it operates, so that way we can better understand how to engage it. Sometimes that means observing the judges and how they are on their docket, kind of how do they rule. Sometimes it means, checking out the relationship between, one of our accused members and their own defense attorney, right? And so whatever it is, right, there's different ways that we can observe, pull some research and pull it so that way we are even more effective as we continue to go and attend these spaces. Last but not least, Court watch is a form of civic engagement, right? As at Mass Lib, one of our principles that you probably read in one of the slides earlier is that the system isn't broken. It was designed this way. And so exposing community members to the daily injustices that happen in courtrooms can actually be really radicalizing, right? It can motivate folks to collect information to share with their neighbors about awful judges or awful courtrooms. It can galvanize community members to find support and resources for their people that are facing court. And it's one of the strongest ways to politically educate around what's really going on. And again, right, the system isn't broken. This is how it's designed. So it's a really great space for political education and growth and development. So a couple of more strategies that are part of court watching, right? Court packing is an extension of court watching, right? When mass turnout in support of those facing charges is needed. This is a really great thing that we can do. We saw this a lot with the protest cases. If you were around in 2020 for the Black Lives Matter movement, or if you were around for the pro-Palestine movement, especially with the students, right? There can be some real benefit for turning out in mass for a court case, right? Filling the room with supporters so that we have a large visible presence. Um, what else? Oftentimes, right, and you're going to hear more about our different community defense strategies and tactics, but oftentimes, right, mutual aid and legal support can look like community bond funds or helping obtain legal representation, right? These are all different ways that we can continue to show up at the courtroom. Um, Last but not least, right, all actions that take place are with the intention that it will aid in the freedom of the individuals facing charges. And so, again, it's part of the reason we want to hold trainings like this. We have a video that we want to watch that's from one of our national partners around Court Watch. That'll give us a little bit more insight and grounding into why we court watch and why it's important. And then, of course, we'll spend the rest of our time going over some specific courtroom etiquette and rules so that, again, we continue to center the safety of our court watchers, but also of the community members that we're going to support. Groovy. So that's how we will spend the rest of our day. So we got a short court watch video that will help us. Again, you might have already seen this before. It's a really good one that we like to go back to because it really does give a great synopsis of what court watch is. And then we'll get into a little bit of court watch etiquette and rules for us to be mindful of for those of you who plan to join us in the near future. All right, Julian, do you want to go ahead and get it started?
There are four
Thank
screens in
you.
front of me. In two, lawyers dressed in suits. In the third, a judge in a robe. Then, a person in an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed behind his back. I'm watching a bail hearing. Within 2 days of someone's arrest, they are brought before a judge like this one, who will decide whether they'll be released or incarcerated in jail while their case proceeds. These decisions can mean life or death, and they are made within minutes, with little information. All over the country, thousands of people go through these hearings each day, as if in a national assembly line of injustice. But in a growing number of places, people are beginning to hold actors accountable by showing up in court and documenting what they see. We are here, and we are watching.
Injustice happens in empty courtrooms.
Her first day court watching, Carmen was nervous. The trauma of her own incarceration had stripped her of her voice. She was here to take it back and be the ally she never had.
Honestly, I knew I had to be a court watcher because words that are spoken are only in the air. Words that are recorded remain for all to see.
Carmen sat in court for 6 hours that day, watching and writing, witnessing everyday injustices, large and small, all consequential. This principle of courts open to the public was inscribed in the Constitution by the nation's founders, who themselves suffered injustice behind closed doors during British rule. But the demands of modern life and the fast-paced legal jargon used in the courtroom means the public can't truly access what happens in court. There's no check on unseen injustice. Carmen wanted to change that. Through life after release, she was given the freedom to build up Courtwatch PG. Along with other court-watching groups across the country, it seeks to train a legion of volunteers to attend hearings and learn the language and process of court so that they can take notes, amplify the injustices they witness, and hold power accountable. Anyone, everyone could be trained to court watch, even if they knew nothing about the law. When the pandemic hit, the stakes got higher. Even one night in an overcrowded jail could be a death sentence. But in some places, court could now be attended virtually, making it more accessible. Ordinary people from all across the country started volunteering with Courtwatch PG. Most had never stepped foot in a courtroom. Carmen explained to them that bond hearings could be a fork in the road, determining not only one person's future, but that of generations that followed. She taught them what to look and listen for in court, and how they could get that information to decision makers and the public. And as they worked, they noticed the ways the system began responding. Prosecutors and judges became aware of their presence. Their accountability letters changed behaviors in the courtroom. Across the country, court watchers are realizing their power.
I court watch because the system will not regulate itself without observers to hold it accountable.
I've seen judges make jokes at the expense of the people who stand before them.
With transparency comes accountability. With accountability comes justice.
I witnessed judges berate people when showing clear signs of mental illness.
There should be court watching in every city and county across the nation.
Court watching feels like taking care of each other.
This could happen to any of us, any of you.
All of us need to be participating.
Justice is possible when we hold power accountable. Court Watch.
All righty, everyone. All right, so let's do a little round of give us an emoji if you have learned something new in the video, or if you were reminded of something important, if you've already court watched with us before. Getting a lot of emojis. Okay. I love to see it. So we're going to get into the first little bit of things that you need to know before even getting to court. So let's make sure we're all set so we're not scrambling last minute. You know, I know how that goes. I've brought in so many things on accident that I've had to like either throw away at the door or put back in my car, and then I'm late to court. So first off, you should know where you're going. What courthouse are you watching in? It could be justice court, which would be, small claims, a city court, which is municipal, county, which is superior, state, which is district, federal, which is circuit, and then clemency board hearings, which isn't technically court, but we've separated them by jurisdiction because there are all kinds of different courts, but every one of these courts holds civil cases, holds criminal cases. So there's kind of an overlap when we talk about different hearings one can have. So you have to be specific when asking, but again, it's designed to be confusing. So there's, like family court, civil court, DUI court, tax court, family court, you name it. You just have to be extremely, extremely specific. All right. So we are going to get into, I think there is a slide. Okay. Slide change. All right. So make sure you double check the specific court that you are going to, the court address, the room number. Court buildings can be confusing, and they definitely do not wait for us to figure it out. I promise. They don't wait for lawyers to figure it out half the time, or the defendant per usual. But again, all designed to do so. We're going to talk about parking. This parking example that I have here is an example of the Superior Court in downtown Phoenix. But just a heads up, whenever we ask you to court watch with us, we will provide parking instructions because it can be tricky. And like I said before, they don't wait. But Parking in downtown Phoenix is a mess. For those of you who do know, if you know, you know, it is expensive, hard to find, and sometimes, I mean, it's an overwhelming, is a nice way to put it. But if you park in the CVS parking garage inside of Cityscape, it's technically free if you buy your ticket or buy something in there and you get your ticket validated inside the store. So grab a water or a snack um, and get that parking validated. And bring your ticket with you as well, because I've had plenty of times where I've left it behind and that is a pain. And paying for parking that's like $30 is not fun. um, but also, if you are not wanting to park in the CVS cityscape parking because it can be a little bit of a walk. There are tons of street parking meters that are empty or all around the court buildings, the Superior Court buildings. Um, and you can either pay with just regular change or you can scan a QR code that'll lead you to an app called Park Mobile. And then it will ask what space you're in, your license plate number, the time you plan on occupying the parking space. The max is 2 hours, but you can always reload it. The app will remind you. And it does a great job of letting you know how much time you have left. So you can also put in your payment method and boom, parking is covered for those 2 hours, but be sure to check and remind yourself. Another benefit would be to carpool. It will save you stress of parking and it helps keep folks safe, you know, especially if you're showing up early or staying late. And, you know, speaking of safety, having a buddy always, whether you're walking from your car, waiting to get in line at security, going through security, don't do it solo. It's always best to have a partner or a buddy. But it can happen that you do show up alone, but always let somebody know where you're at. And one more thing, security will check you when you enter the building. So double check before you leave your house. Absolutely no prohibited items, nothing that can get you flagged, friends. Um, that's a big deal. We do not want to further criminalize our friends facing these systems. All right. Before we step into courtroom, let's go over a few things to make sure that we're moving smart, we're staying safe, and not putting anyone at risk, especially our people who are facing charges, like I just mentioned. Here at Mass Liberation Arizona, we will ask you if you're court watching us to please stay masked. We want to protect members of our community and ourselves, not only from sickness, but from surveillance as well. It's a big deal in those big buildings, surveillance. Our top priority is the safety and liberation of our people, our friends, our family, our neighbors, and that means we're not doing anything that could lead to more criminalization or harm. So everything we do in that space has intention and has to reflect care, strategy, and discipline. So now that you know the rules of the courthouse, or the rules of the courthouse before you walk in, here's a list of things that you should know. Every court is a little different, and sometimes they ban stuff like phones, laptops, even certain clothing or bags. So check in with someone who's been there before or look it up. Don't get caught slipping at the door. So that's why we will always advise folks to just bring a pen or bring a pen, notes, notepad, water, snacks, and a mask, and wear appropriate court attire. We're going to get into courtroom decorum now that we are past security and inside the court building. We are going to go into the courtroom. And this is also known as how we carry ourselves inside. So it looks a little something like this. No weapons, and this includes pepper spray. I made the mistake of having that, you know, the little keychain on my keys. Yep, I got thrown away immediately. So please do not bring in any prohibited items to any courthouse. No eating, chewing gum, or drinking except water. You can bring snacks in, but you cannot eat in the courtroom. I You can bring in coffee if you are drinking coffee bought at the cafeteria, or if you ran to a coffee shop during lunch, whatever it may be, that is allowed. But absolutely zero eating. Phones on silent. It can be a little tricky. It depends on, who the bailiff is in the courtroom, but we advise you to just put your phones on silent, put them away, pay attention, and do not get caught with your phone being loud. When the judge or jury comes in or out, you do stand up. Um, no talking or reacting while court is in session, even if something wild happens. I know it is so hard. I've had to bite my tongue so many times. Um, but just no reacting, no talking, no photos, no video, no recording anywhere in the courthouse. It could get you kicked out. And one thing you absolutely have to remember at a federal courthouse is that you need to bring any sort of photo identification in order to get inside. It's not every court that will ask you for photo identification, but any federal courthouse, you will need to bring photo identification. And this one's big. No trying to communicate with the defendant. Again, another hard one. No waving, no mouthing words, no reactions, even if things get emotional. We know it's hard, but your presence alone speaks volumes. And yeah, if you are meeting up with folks beforehand or during the break, the cafeteria is a great spot to grab a snack, debrief, get grounded with each other before heading back in. Um, some places or some folks reconvene, right at the exit, and we will decide on a place we'll get lunch, or we're just kind of letting folks know where we're headed during that Um, hour to an hour and a half break during lunchtime. So some court days can last from 8 a.m. all the way up till 5 p.m. The stenographer needs a break every 90 minutes. So there are breaks pretty often. As for lunch, lunch is always an hour to an hour and a half, like I just said, and you're more than welcome to get lunch at the cafeteria, which closes at 2 p.m. In the superior courts that I was talking about. You can also leave the court to go get lunch elsewhere, but just be mindful of all the things that you need to do returning to court again, because they will not wait for us. So plan enough time in advance for travel as well. There are a lot of places in downtown Phoenix area that are walking distance to grab food at. So that's what I typically do. Um, so please be mindful that we do need to stay far, far away from jurors as well. You're not allowed to have contact photos or any sort of conversation with them. That is a big no-no as well. Um, basically, the bottom line, court watching is about witnessing and holding space and not disrupting. And our power comes from being present and not drawing attention to ourselves.
All righty. We are rounding the end of our training because we are trying to be good about our timing. Again, if folks have any questions about Court Watch, feel free to use the chat, and we can get our answers back to you as soon as possible. All right, so where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? If you would like to join our Court Watch Rapid Response team, we are keeping together and keeping each other informed via Signal chat. And so what you'll see on the screen is a cool little bit.ly/QR code that you can scan to join our rapid response Signal chat. It'll be a space where you can network with other folks, other committed court watchers. It's a chance for us to share information on upcoming cases and hearings and figure out who's able to go, right? Because we're not always able to go to every single one. Totally understandable. It takes all of us, right? It's also a space to get important logistical information. Like we said, right? Like a court will change at the drop of a dime for any reason. And so like a start time can change, a courtroom can change literally at the last minute. And so we'll use the Signal chats as a way to try and keep people updated for all the logistical needs if folks are heading to Court Watch with us. It's a good place to keep updated. So again, feel free to register. There's a couple of upcoming court watch cases that are to be determined in terms of their dates that I'm going to go over. But you'll get all of that. We'll keep people most updated within the Signal chat. And so if you join this, you'll get updated for all the upcoming cases that we got that I'll talk about in just a second. Another call to action that's happening is Free Yachty. This has been a campaign to free an individual who's been in detention, I think, for over a year now. Here in Eloy. She's a community member that is with one of our partner organizations, Transcorp Pueblo, who's kind of been leading the way in partnership with a number of other organizations as well. There is an upcoming action on the 28th of June, so it's very soon. And it is a community rally outside of the Eloy Detention Center. Again, coordinated by multiple organizations like Transcorp Pueblo, and it's about bringing attention to this case of indefinite detention for Yadi, who has been dying of leukemia in Eloy Detention Center, has been denied medical care that she needs in order to survive. And so we're trying to bring as much attention to this case as possible. And so if you're interested in going, there is a whole caravan that we are a part of that we're trying to make work. If you're interested, please feel free to take this bit.ly, scan this QR code, and one of us will be in contact with you with all the specific logistics of that caravan. Our goal is to have at least 5 folks from MassLib, so that way we can have a really good show of action on that day. So if you can make it, please feel free to join us. All right. We have a few cases coming up. None of them have specific dates. And so as we get the dates as they come in, again, the best place to get them will be in the Signal chat. But we have the Sterling Evans case. This is a self-defense case that we've been supporting most recently, especially through the end of the trial process. This case has taken a lot of many twists and turns, for those of you who've been following, and it's definitely far from over. And so, a couple of things that are coming up with this case. There is a Brady hearing to determine if the prosecution withheld any information during the evidentiary disclosure process. This could have a lot of implications for the case itself. It's again, the date hasn't been determined yet, but it is coming up very soon. It's something that'll probably be the most recent thing that will happen in terms of our next court watch case. Um, Likely to follow the Brady hearing is unfortunately a sentencing hearing. This date is also to be determined, but will come pretty immediately following the Brady hearing. And so both of those will probably be back to back and will most likely be our most upcoming court watch opportunity. Um, there's a question in the chat. If someone can respond to that as I continue to go through that, I'd really appreciate it because it might be a question for everybody, is what it looks like. Um, as well as the Sterling Evans case, there is a GoFundMe, right? Because again, court is expensive. And then we're going to talk about the ASU 68 in just a second. But if we could get the link to the Sterling Evans GoFundMe, it's being managed by his mom and fellow court watcher, Miss Leah. And so if you have the means and the privilege to contribute, by all means, we'll have the GoFundMe link in the chat. It'll be a ton of help to both Sterling and his family as they go through this. Okay, so that's the Sterling Evans case. We got the Brady hearing, we got the sentencing hearing coming up. As soon as we know, you all will know, especially in the Signal chat. All right, ASU 68 case. This is the ongoing protest case that happened with the pro-Palestine movement. A little bit of a background, right? This is the Gaza Solidarity encampments that took place back in April of like 2024. The Maricopa County Attorney's Office has determined to prosecute almost 70 protesters. They were arrested for demanding that ASU divest from Israel's genocide in Gaza, and disclose all of its ties to Israel, right? So it was really about a call for transparency. And of course, right, rather than meet the demands of the protesters, ASU partnered with, the largest prosecuting agency in Arizona, the MCAO, to politically prosecute these protesters, right? We saw this before with the Black Lives Matter protesters, and so we're seeing it again here in 2024, from 2024, still ongoing here in 2026. As an organization, we assembled a legal team to push back, just as we did in 2020 protest with the 2020 protesters case, who later won about $6 million in reparations. So, we'll see what happens in this case. Now it's been over 2 years later. Maricopa County Attorney's Office is on the defense because the movement's legal team put on an aggressive defense. And so we've already gotten one of the cases dismissed. So yay, 68 more to go. I'm sorry, 67 more to go. And so the next hearing is a major development. This is coming up ideally sometime in July. But again, we're waiting to hear back. But the big development for this upcoming hearing is that Rachel Mitchell, who is the Maricopa County attorney, right? It's an elected position. Rachel Mitchell will likely have to testify and explain why she is politically prosecuting these protesters, right? A county attorney is going to have to testify, is unprecedented. And it's all due to the immense pressure that has been put on the Maricopa County attorney, not only in this case, but in the previous protest cases. We have been pushing so hard, and now they have to sit on the stand, right, in the hot seat, like they do to so many of our people, and they have to answer for their own actions. And so that's a major development. We will keep you all abreast on when that's coming up, but it's likely going to happen in later July. Um, if we win these cases, this will be the only cases in the entire United States, from what we can tell, around the Gaza solidarity protesters fighting back and winning. So it's a really big opportunity, to support some really good court watch work, that will have ideally some continued ripple effects. Okay, let me see. What else do we got? I think that's everything, right?
I have one more thing to add, Joe.
Ah, yes, go for
So,
it.
so on this last slide, we have this QR code here and the link that I just dropped in the chat. This is our Court Watch training form. Folks that may have missed out on this training, this is an opportunity. As we mentioned, we did record this training. So send this to a friend that wasn't able to make it to this training. We have tons of Court Watch efforts coming your way within the next couple months, weeks. We want as many people to show up for these Court Watch efforts. So please share this with a friend, this form. It helps us determine who's been trained and who's not, so we can send this video out to folks, so they can come Court Watch with us. So be sure to grab this link that I dropped in the chat or scan the QR code. And I think that's everything that we have for tonight. Thank you all so much for joining us on in our Court Watch training, and we hope to see you at the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
And we'll see y'all soon, hopefully.
Yes.
Stay cool.